Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be diving in.
Today we're plunging into a really pivotal passage, 1 Samuel chapter 9.
Yeah, this one's fascinating.
It's a story that, well, it starts with a completely ordinary problem, like really mundane.
Lost donkeys.
Exactly. And it just unfolds into something extraordinary. It reveals destiny in, the most unexpected way.
It's one of those classic moments in the narrative, isn't it, where you really see the divine plan sort of intersecting with everyday life.
Absolutely. It makes you think, what seems like chance to us?
Could be completely orchestrated from another perspective.
Yeah. So chapter 9 opens, and it introduces us to Kish. He's described as a man of standing from Benjamin.
Right, a Benjaminite, a person of some substance, some influence within his tribe.
And Kish has a son, Saul. And right away, the text gives us this really vivid picture of Saul.
It does. It doesn't hold back.
He's called an impressive young man. And physically, he stands out big time.
He's literally a head taller than anyone else among the Israelites.
Imagine that, just walking around.
Yeah, that physical description, it's significant, I think.
Yeah.
It sets him apart visually, gives him this inherent presence.
Right. In a culture that often valued that sort of thing, physical stature.
It definitely marks him as someone noticeable, even before we know anything else about his character or destiny.
He's already head and shoulders above the rest, quite literally. But despite that striking image,
The story doesn't start with some grand battle or prophecy about him.
no. It starts with, like we said, a super relatable, almost mundane problem. Kish's donkeys. They're lost.
Lost donkeys. I mean, it's not lost treasure. It's not a military emergency.
Nope. Just lost livestock.
It really grounds the beginning of the story, doesn't it? In the reality of daily life back then.
Totally. Donkeys were valuable, sure, essential for work and transport.
Oh, definitely. But losing them is a household problem, not a national crisis. At least not yet.
Exactly. So Kish tells Saul, his son, take one of the servants, go look for them. That's the mission. Simple.
Find the donkeys.
And they set out. The text actually details their search quite a bit. They cover a lot of ground.
They do. Through the hill country of Ephraim, then Shalisha, Shalim.
Right? Then back through Benjamin territory. They're really putting in the miles. They're diligent.
Absolutely thorough. This isn't some half-hearted wander around the block.
No way. They spend significant time, significant energy going through different regions. They're committed to the task Kish gave them. And after all that searching, what happens?
They don't find them. Still missing.
Their own efforts, even though they were pretty comprehensive.
They failed. They basically hit a dead end. Probably exhausted, too.
You'd think so, and covered all the logical places.
Right.
And here, Saul shows, well, a practical concern. He turns to the servant and says something like, come on, let's head back.
Yeah, he says, my father will stop worrying about the donkeys.
And start worrying about us. Which makes sense.
It's a very practical and, filial concern. Shows his responsibility.
Yeah, not just for the donkeys, but for his dad's peace of mind. He knows they've been gone a while.
Knows the anxiety level back home is probably shifting from livestock to, well, them.
Okay, but here is where it gets really interesting. Just when Saul's ready to give up, turn around, head home.
The servant speaks up.
The servant, out of the blue, seemingly, he offers a completely different idea.
And this is such a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
It comes from the servant, right? The person you might think is just there to carry the bags.
Exactly. The guy with a seemingly lower status.
It's a great reminder, isn't it? That important ideas, guidance, it can come from surprising places, people you might overlook.
So true. And what's the idea? Why this suggestion?
He suggests they go to a specific town nearby.
And why that town?
Because, the servant says, there's a man of God there.
Okay.
And he describes this man, highly respected, someone whose prophecies, whose words, they always come true, reliable.
So like a known quantity, someone with a reputation for genuine insight.
Exactly. A reputation for being connected, to the divine and for accuracy.
And the servant thinks, maybe this guy can help.
Yeah, maybe he can tell him which way to go. Still focused on the donkeys, notice.
Right. The goal hasn't shifted in their minds. It's still about finding the lost animals. They just need directions.
They're hoping this man of God, this seer, can point them right.
And the text gives us that helpful little note here, doesn't it? Explaining the terminology.
It says what people now call a prophet.
It was formerly called a seer back then in Israel.
So it clarifies that this respected man of God is Samuel, and he's operating in that role of a seer, receiving divine insight.
Got it. But Saul, ever the practical one, immediately sees another problem.
Of course he does.
He says basically, okay, great idea, but what can we give him?
Right. Our food's gone. We have no gift.
Approaching someone important, especially a man of God, empty-handed, that wasn't really the done thing.
Yeah, it wasn't customary. Plus, they'd used up all their supplies on this long trek. He's thinking culturally, practically.
It seems like another obstacle, like, okay, good idea, but we can't actually do it.
But guess who has the solution?
The servant again.
The servant again. He says, look, I happen to have...
A quarter of a shekel of silver. Not a lot, but something.
Exactly. He says, I'll give it to the man of God so he'll tell us our way.
It's enough. Enough to meet that, social expectation or offer a token.
And it's the servant's resourcefulness again. His initiative, his little bit of money. It's actually critical here.
Absolutely. Without that small coin, Saul might have just said, nah, let's go home.
The servant really is the catalyst for this whole detour.
And Saul's response, simple. Good, let's go.
Just like that.
And their mission, the donkey-finding mission, takes this completely unforeseen turn, all because of the servant's idea and a tiny bit of silver. Heading towards a town and a meeting that will change everything.
It's pretty amazing how the whole narrative just pivots right there. They were focused on lost animals.
And now they're heading towards, well, a divine appointment, still thinking it's about donkeys.
But the implications are just massive, and they have no idea.
So they head towards this town. They're making their way up the hill.
Typical terrain for towns back then, often built on hills for defense.
And as they get close, they meet some young women coming out to draw water. A totally normal, everyday scene.
A village well or a spring, a natural place to encounter locals and, well, ask for directions.
So Saul and the servant ask them straight up, is the seer here?
Using that older term, seer, maybe that's what the servant called them, or just the common term for Samuel in that area.
And the girls.
Yeah.
They're incredibly helpful, very specific.
They are. They say, yep, he's here. He's just ahead of you.
And they give context. He just arrived in town today because the people are having a sacrifice at the high place.
That term, high place, it refers to a local spot for worship, usually elevated, like the name suggests, where they do sacrifices, have communal meals.
So Samuel's presence means he's involved in this important community religious event. Presiding, maybe?
Likely participating or leading in some capacity, yeah.
And the girls give them these really crucial timing instructions. They're almost rushing them.
They are. Hurry now. He just came. As soon as you enter town, you'll find him before he goes up to eat.
They even explain why the timing matters. The people won't eat the sacrificial meal until the seer comes and blesses it.
So there's this window.
Yeah. They say, go up now. You should find him about this time. Like right now. Go.
The urgency is palpable. It feels like everything is just converging at this exact moment. Perfect timing.
So they listen, they follow the directions, they go up into the town.
And just as they're entering the gateway, boom.
Who do they meet coming towards them?
Samuel himself. On his way up to the high place.
The timing is just presented as absolutely perfect, almost uncanny.
Divinely orchestrated, you might say. They arrive, ask, get told, hurry, and there he is, meeting them right at the entrance, just like the girls hinted.
But here's the kicker. This is where the text pulls back the curtain, shows us the unseen hand guiding all this.
Yes. This is where we, the readers, get the inside scoop. We find out what Saul and the servant are completely clueless about.
The apparent coincidence. Not so coincidental.
Not at all. It's destiny unfolding.
The narrative tells us something vital that happened the day before this meeting.
Crucial context.
The Lord had revealed something specific to Samuel yesterday.
Okay.
The Lord told Samuel, about this time tomorrow, the exact time they're now meeting, I will send you a man.
Wow.
A man from the land of Benjamin.
So Samuel wasn't just randomly in town for a sacrifice. He was waiting.
He was waiting. God told him someone specific from a specific tribe would show up at this specific time. He was prepared.
Amazing.
And the Lord told Samuel why this man was coming, what his purpose was.
What was it?
Samuel was to anoint him as leader over Israel.
Leader, like a king.
Effectively, yes. The term used is neged, leader or ruler, and this man would deliver Israel from the Philistines.
Okay, so this is huge. This is about national deliverance.
It is. And the Lord gave his reason. I have seen my people. Their cry has reached me.
So this whole encounter, Saul's journey, it's God's direct response to the suffering of Israel and to the Philistines.
Exactly. This man, chosen by God, arriving seemingly by chance, is the answer to their national crisis. It's the start of the monarchy, really, fulfilling that desire they had.
Wow. That shifts everything. It's not about donkeys at all, from God's perspective.
Not even a little bit. And then at the very moment, Samuel lays eyes on Saul walking into town.
God confirms it.
The Lord gives Samuel that final, immediate confirmation. This is the man I spoke to you about. He will govern my people.
No doubt left in Samuel's mind, this tall young guy who's probably about to ask for directions.
Is the one God has chosen, the future leader of Israel.
Incredible.
And Saul, completely oblivious, totally unaware of any of this divine backstory.
Just focused on his original mission.
He approaches Samuel in the gateway, still thinking practically, and asks him, excuse me, sir, can you please tell me where the seer's house is?
Huh. Asking the seer himself for directions to the seer's house, having no clue who he's talking to.
Or that this man knows everything. About the donkeys, about his future.
Yeah. And Samuel's reply, so direct, so, well, astonishing for Saul, surely.
He just says, I am the seer.
Boom. Imagine Saul's face. The respected, divinely connected man he was sent to find is the first person he bumps into.
Mind blown, probably. But Samuel doesn't even pause there. He immediately takes charge.
Right, he extends this remarkable invitation.
Go up ahead of me to the high place, he says. You're going to eat with me today.
Whoa. From asking directions to getting invited to the head table at a feast.
And he adds, in the morning, I'll let you go, and I'll tell you all that is in your heart.
That's quite a promise. All that is in your heart, more than just donkey directions, clearly.
Way more. It implies dealing with worries, questions, maybe even things Saul isn't fully aware of himself.
Deeper concerns.
And then Samuel validates everything. He proves he's the real deal, not just in reputation, but specifically for Saul. He directly addresses the reason Saul came in the first place. He says, as for your donkeys,
the ones lost 3 days ago.
Do not set your mind on them, Samuel says, for they have been found.
Wow. Just like that, the immediate practical problem that drove this whole crazy journey.
Solved with a single sentence.
That must have confirmed Samuel's divine insight for Saul instantly. He knew about the donkeys. He knew how long they'd been gone.
Undeniable proof. But Samuel doesn't even let Saul process the donkey news. He immediately pivots.
From lost livestock
to national destiny. It's almost dizzying. He asks Saul this monumental question.
And for whom is all that is desirable in Israel?
Think about that phrase. All that is desirable. The hope, the longing of the nation.
Is it not for you, Samuel continues, and for all your father's house?
That's the bombshell. He's basically telling Saul, you are the one Israel is waiting for. You are the fulfillment of the nation's desire for leadership, for deliverance.
It's a direct prophecy of kingship, connecting right back to God, hearing their cry and meeting their desire through Saul.
So how does Saul react to this utterly unbelievable statement?
Does he puff up his chest? Remember, he's the tall, impressive guy.
No. The text emphasizes his reaction, and it's rooted in his own feeling of, well, insignificance.
Really? Disbelief? Humility?
Seems like it. He basically says, wait a minute, am I not a Benjamite?
Okay.
From the least of the tribes of Israel.
He points that out. Interesting.
Yes. And isn't my clan the humblest of all the clans in Benjamin?
Wow. So that contrasts sharply with the initial description, the head taller thing.
Totally.
Wow.
Physically prominent, yet he identifies with the smallest, least significant parts of his background.
His internal view doesn't match the external reality, or certainly not this divine appointment.
He finishes with, why do you speak to me like this? He just can't reconcile being the desire of Israel with coming from the least and humblest.
Fascinating psychology there.
Isn't it? But despite Saul's protests, Samuel doesn't argue or back down.
What does he do?
He just takes Saul and his servant and leads them into the hall where the feast is happening.
Moving from the public gate to this more, well, semi-private communal space.
And he gives them this incredible place of honor. They're seated at the head of those who are invited. And there were about 30 guests there.
30 prominent people, presumably, for a sacrificial feast with Samuel and Saul, the donkey hunter.
And his servant. They get the head seats. That's a huge public statement.
Everyone there would have noticed. Mark them out immediately.
Then Samuel gives a specific instruction to the cook.
About the food.
Yes. He tells the cook to bring a particular piece of meat, the portion that he, Samuel, had set aside earlier.
So not just a random piece from the sacrifice.
Yeah.
A special reserved portion.
Exactly. Designated for a significant guest before they even knew who it was, or perhaps because Samuel knew who was coming.
So the cook brings it out. What was it?
The text says the leg and whatever was on it. sets it right in front of Saul.
Okay.
And Samuel really emphasizes the significance. He says, "See, what was kept is set before you. Eat."
Because it was kept for you for this occasion.
From the time I said, "I have invited guests."
That language is so deliberate, kept for you, set aside for you, for this occasion.
It powerfully reinforces that idea of predestination. This moment, this meal, this specific piece of food, it was all prepared specifically for Saul's arrival.
Even before Saul knew he was coming. A physical sign of his unique appointment.
So Saul eats with Samuel that day, dining on this special portion in the seat of honor next to the prophet who just told him his donkeys were found and he's the hope of Israel.
Imagine the thoughts racing through Saul's mind during that meal. What a turnaround.
From anonymous guy looking for lost animals to honored guest marked for greatness in like a few hours.
Oh, total life shift right there at the dinner table.
Okay, so after the feast, they come down from the high place back into the town proper. And the text mentions Samuel talked with Saul on the roof of his house.
The roof. Often a place for cooler air, maybe more privacy after the public feast. A common spot for important conversations.
Seems like a shift to a more private, perhaps deeper discussion. Then the next morning rolls around. They get up early, around daybreak.
Right?
Samuel calls to Saul, who's maybe still on the roof or nearby, and tells him basically, "Get ready. It's time for you to leave. I'll send you on your way."
The hospitality and the initial talks are wrapping up. Time for the next step.
So Saul gets ready. He and Samuel walk out together, heading towards the edge of town.
Leaving the main settlement.
And just as they're about to leave the town limits, Samuel tells the servant.
With a helpful servant.
Yeah, he tells him, "Go on ahead of us."
Another deliberate move for privacy.
Exactly. The servant was crucial in getting Saul to Samuel, but now he's sent ahead. This next part is just for Saul and Samuel.
The stage.
And then, standing there alone with Saul at the edge of town, Samuel speaks the final words we get in this chapter. He says,
"Stand here a while."
"That I may give you a message from God."
Chills. That sets up everything for the next chapter, doesn't it? The actual anointing, the specific commission from God.
Absolutely. All of chapter 9 has been this incredible, divinely arranged setup. The preparation, the meeting, the validation, all leading to this precise moment where Saul will get the direct word.
Wow, what a journey.
So let's connect the dots here. What does this all mean for you listening to this story? We started with lost donkeys, a simple, practical, everyday problem.
So ordinary.
And that problem led Saul and his servant on this journey that turned out to be, well, a divinely guided path straight to his appointment as Israel's first king.
The core takeaway, I think, is seeing how God works through, like, the totally normal stuff. Ordinary circumstances, human choices.
Like Saul just being an obedient son, looking for the animals.
And the servant offering practical advice based on Samuel's local reputation. Neither had some grand vision.
No clue. Yet their mundane actions became the vehicle for this massive turning point in Israel's history.
So how does a donkey search turn into meeting the prophet who tells you you're destined to be king?
It wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. The text makes that crystal clear.
It tells us the Lord had prepared Samuel. Told him the day before, exactly when, where, who.
God had already decided. He orchestrated the circumstances.
Which highlights those layers of reality, right, from Saul's view. Failed search, lucky suggestion, helpful wise man.
And from God's view, answering his people's cries, bringing the chosen leader to the right place, right time, using seemingly random events.
It really shows God working in and through the nitty-gritty details of life, not just in spite of them.
And what about Saul's reaction? That contrast, tall, impressive guy.
But feels like he's from the least and the humblest.
What does that humility, or maybe it's insecurity, tell us about him? Especially knowing how his story plays out later.
It's a really complex starting point for a king, isn't it?
Yeah.
God chooses the one who stands out physically but feels insignificant internally.
Raises all sorts of questions. About leadership, about being chosen, about how we see ourselves versus God's purpose for us.
And the fact God chose him in response to the people's cry and desire, that adds another layer too. God gave them the leader they wanted, in a sense.
But maybe not exactly how they pictured it or with the internal makeup they expected.
Yeah.
So what can you, listening right now, take away from this deep dive? Maybe a couple of things.
Okay.
First, maybe the path to your purpose or where you're meant to be. It might start with just doing the next thing in front of you, faithfully.
Even if it seems small or mundane, like looking for donkeys.
Right. Faithfulness in the small stuff can position you for bigger things, often in ways you just can't predict. Your current responsibilities might be connected to your future direction.
That's a powerful thought. And second,
Pay attention to the advice and insights of others, even people you might normally overlook.
like the servant.
Exactly. His suggestion was the absolute turning point. Sometimes the guidance you need comes from a source you didn't expect.
So stay open to counsel. Don't discount wisdom based on the messenger's status or position.
Good advice. Okay, finally, let's leave you with a thought to ponder until our next deep dive. Think about that special piece of meat again. The one Samuel said was kept and set aside for Saul, for that specific occasion.
Yeah, prepared just for him for that moment he didn't even know was coming.
So the question to ponder is, what does that concept mean? Being set aside or prepared for a moment, a purpose, a task that you aren't even aware is on the horizon.
What does it mean for something or even someone to be kept for a specific time and purpose?
Think about that. We'll connect more dots next time.